Hi. So this is going to be my story of my mental health illness. And as I've said before, I am a pro mental health illness person, mental health person, because I know the benefits and the struggles of what it is to be diagnosed with mental illness, And for a lot of people, it is still a standoff stigma that even in 2021 we still don't understand why they do that, because everybody has some form or some little version of mental health illness, depression, anxiety, because we all get anxious, we all get depressed, and it's just one of those things. So I got my notes. I'm gonna try not to read from them, but I may have to refer to them. So hi, my name is Michael. The purpose of me doing this video is to tell my story. It is a story of mental health illness and how I am able today to share this story without tearing up. I want you to know that mental health can have a positive effect on a person's life. I will share what worked for me. I am a veteran. My journey will be different than a lot of people. I spent more than 29 years in the National Guard and active duty Army. I was in Desert Storm, Iraq 3 times, and Afghanistan once. I retired in 2012 as an E6. There is no mental health illness history in my family. So, a lot of times people will think it's genetics or whatever. Didn't work on genetics for me. It was not until I was 38 that I had my first mental health episode. It was April 2004. I had just returned from a year in Iraq. I was driving down a 4-lane highway outside of Fort Hood, Highway 190, and I found myself driving down the middle of the highway, which is, some of you know if you've been to Iraq, we did that to keep the vehicles off the road as we went down the convoys, to prevent IEDs from being from blowing up the convoy, or vehicle IEDs. I literally thought I was back in Iraq. It took me a few minutes to realize that I was not in Iraq and that I was safe and everything was okay. This happened on a Friday, so I waited a weekend, see if anything was going to change. It didn't. So on Monday I went to see mental health, and the immediate response for my chain of command was, "You are a Staff Sergeant in the United States Army, what are you doing?" I found out that my serotonin level had gone off and I needed some medication to get that back on track, so they put me on Prozac. So suffering from depression. There was nothing that I did to cause this depression. It is something that happened. My brain chemicals just got off balance, So there was, like I said, it was almost an immediate reaction from my chain of command. Why a senior NCO would go to mental health. NCOs lead by example. They wanted to know how I could lead by example. Nothing had changed in my ability to lead soldiers. Just process of my mind. As I sat there and had discussions about my ability to lead my soldier, I told him everything would be fine. What I did every day for the next 8 years was my duty. I never let mental health get in the way of doing my duty. On November 29th, 2004, there was a Black Hawk crash near Fort Hood. It killed 7 soldiers. 3 of those were my friends. At the time, I was an NCO of the battalion funeral detail. That meant we were going to be doing all the funerals of the Army deaths in that part of Texas. I told LT that I wanted my team to do the funerals if there were any held in Texas. My team ended up doing 2 of them, Mark Evans and David Garner Jr. I also was an escort for David's father. I was very close to every part of the event, from recovery to the burial. It was extremely hard for me each time I presided over another funeral, as I had waves of memories coming back. Also for me, There was the triggers, the sound of a Black Hawk, smell of burning wreckage, and the smell of JP4. I would be around Black Hawks for a long time at Fort Hood. The burden I bear that no one understands other than my brothers and sisters in uniform. I made my second deployment in November 2005. In February 2006, I threatened my NCO in Iraq. I was sent to Germany for inpatient treatment, then on to Fort Hood for outpatient treatment. As it turned out, my NCOIC, when I threatened, was sent home for medical reasons in May. So First Sergeant said, I'm not going to deal with the drama, you're going back to Iraq. I told him, that's fine, First Sergeant. The problem is not in Iraq, the problem's here at Fort Hood now, so I'll go. I finished out my second deployment. I deployed the third time to Iraq. Each time I deployed and came home from deployment, I had to be cleared medically. Every time I signed the paper saying that it was okay, and every time the doc sent me. So once again, not using mental health to get out of doing my job. I own my mental health. It was a part of me as much as everything else. I will say that the treatment program, therapy, and medication is what worked for me. There was always adjustments to medication, and that it was important for me to communicate to my doctor what works and what don't work. My third deployment, I was the NCIC at the Division Dining Facility for 4th ID at Camp Liberty, Iraq. We fed 2,500 soldiers every meal 3 times a day. I was also in charge of doubling the size of that dining facility during our tour. I worked for the commanding general of 4ID. People knew about my mental illness, but I was the one that was picked to run the dining facility. I spent the last 8 years of my 20-year career in the military with mental health. I was never relieved of a position. I was given much respect by my peers and my seniors in my chain of command. I retired in 2012. My mental health journey after the Army was a new one. After 20 years, I was starting a new life after the Army. My first year or two, I was near an Army base that I retired at Fort Stewart, Georgia. Then I moved back to Texas. I started working in kitchens. I was seeing a doctor at Fort Worth, VA, but not doing therapy there. He was just doing my meds. I finally found someone to help me with my anger. My therapist, Kim, told me I had a very serious anger problem. I was blaming other people for my anger. After a year of therapy, thanks to Kim's help, I was able to get my anger under control. It was then that I realized I had a few mental issues to confront. My expectations was the area that I felt needed most addressed. I had the same high expectations I had in the Army, and now I needed them lowered, them to manage them. I had to go through reframing my mind to bring my expectations down to a level I could live with. Also, Kim told me that my emotions were tied to my expectations, which means the higher my emotions were, the higher my expectations would be. I finally, through a lot of time and effort, managed to reframe my mind and have expectations that I was okay with. I worked in kitchens until last October. I am now doing peer support for veterans. Everything I have experienced because of my mental health illness is a part of who I am today. I always tell people that I believe in mental health treatment over other methods. With all of that, I've never had a drinking or drug problem. It is a victory to be able today to do what I do. I would like to talk to you about my therapy part of the treatment. I had many therapists over the years. And as I've said before, therapists are just like anything else in life. You gotta find one that will fit. There are 2 that fit like a glove that I have. It is important that I have a person who is comfortable with you and that the therapist is comfortable with you. You know, so if you're not, it has to work both ways with the therapist and with you. If you go see a therapist and it's not a good fit, ask for a recommendation. That they may know somebody who is a better fit for you. Also, don't go into treatment with the thought of 5 or 10 sessions. As I told you, it took me a year to get my anger management under control. It Take as long as it takes to get what you want out of therapy. Don't rush it. Mental health is not something that you need to rush. It's just like trying to recover from a broken bone. It will heal only in the time frame that it takes to heal a bone. As I said at the start of this testimony of my story of mental health and how I am a better person today. I am healed today, and I can tell the story without tearing up. That is my story. I want to be able to reach out to people and let you know that you can do this. You don't have to fight alone. There are people that are out there to help you. There are people like me who have been through the trauma and the experiences of mental health, and we know a lot of things that therapists don't know because we have walked the walk, and that's why therapists sometimes are handcuffed in treating you, because they have not been down that same road. As a peer support specialist, I have, and that's why I want to talk to veterans, because I know for a fact that the only person that would understand and be able to relate to me is a veteran, but I don't have the training to be a therapist, so therapists and peer support can be something that you can have together. You can go see a therapist and you can have a peer support person too, and that's why it's important to know the difference between the two. With therapists, they're trained, they're using the stuff that they're taught, which is great. And then I'm using life experience, because I've been down that road. I know how bad panic attacks are. I know how upset I get when things just don't go my way, because it doesn't make sense in my mind. It's just like transitioning from civilian to military. Even though I've got a better understanding of it, I will never be convinced that you can ever get past that completely, because it's just ingrained in your soul. It's who you are. It's in my DNA. So I just wanted to do that today. It was a tough experience to do this, to write this, and to talk about it, but it's something you have to talk about. I don't want mental health to be this. I don't want the stigma of mental health to be the reason that you don't get help. Okay. After you get out of the Army, after you got out of the military, you have that freedom to go get help. You won't be looked upon by people. Explain to your family, hey, these people are the ones that's going to help me get better. We'll be a better family. Or explain to your coworkers, whoever you need to explain to, do it. If you don't feel like you have to explain, it's none of their fucking business. Okay, you can go tell them to fuck off and go do your own thing. Okay? Nobody controls what you do. You control you. Okay? So y'all take care, and then Tuesday we'll be talking about saying no, how to say no, how not to say no, and when it's okay to say no. Thank you. Y'all have a good day.